Remember, this guy is the woke general, the Weneral, the woke Pentagon. Look at all the shiny stripes he's got on his uniform, you know? Yeah, the woke army, right? Anyway, he called Trump a fascist. How nice. Trump's top general, Milei, calls former president fascist and dangerous. It's according to Bob Woodward's forthcoming book, War. This is the same book, by the way, that alleges that Donald Trump apparently met with Putin like 7 times after leaving the presidency. Oh, it's also where they got the story that Trump, like, during the presidency, not personally, but like deliberately delivered a high-tech COVID testing device to Putin to keep him safe when American hospitals were still down on it. You have any idea how insane that is? Kremlin confirms Trump sent Russia COVID-19 tests. It was like a high-tech, rapid COVID tester, not like a little strip test or whatever. This was a machine that hospitals needed, and he just sent it to a foreign power. Like, yeah, testing equipment. Sample COVID-19 tests in the early days of the pandemic after revelations in veteran journalist Bob Woodward's new book raised further questions about the former U.S. president's relationship with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin. This is what I mean by journalists laundering the truth and protecting Donald Trump. It does not, quote, raise further questions. There are no questions. It's very clear. It's unambiguously clear. The Trump administration sent us several samples of test kits, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters on Thursday, broadly supporting Woodward's claim. Trump secretly sent Putin a bunch of Abbott point-of-care COVID test machines for his personal use. Please don't tell anyone you sent these to me, Putin said to Trump, according to Woodward. I don't care, Trump replied. Fine. No, Putin said. I don't want you to tell anyone because people will get mad at you, not me. They don't care about me. It's like that note that keeps rising but stays the same. Thank you, Bob Woodward, for once again holding information that could have changed things, but you wanted it for your book. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. 100%, yeah. Like the journalist who's like, well, I could release this information earlier, but then I couldn't put it in a book. Anyway, likewise with Milei calling Trump a fascist. Yes, you've all made the Yowie joke already. You're very original. Thank you. Does it seem like he got recordings? Do you think Trump is smart enough to recall this? Putin's spokesman confirmed it. Why would the Kremlin admit to this if it's beneficial for them to have Trump in office? I think Putin and the Kremlin at large have realized that it doesn't matter. Like, I think that back when Trump was the president, Putin still understood, or he was under the impression that there would be political consequences to Trump being openly, like, treasonous, essentially, with his behavior. And now maybe they've realized it doesn't matter at all. But why even say it then? Like, what is there to gain? I mean, I don't know. I'm not psychic. It is strategically smart to confirm it so it will stop being in the media cycle. Ambiguity causes it to run more wild. There's some truth to that, yeah. Though I think it's pretty alarming that we've reached a point where stuff like this can basically just be openly confirmed with no consequences. Like, doesn't that indicate something much worse about the current state of affairs? That no one gives a shit? It doesn't matter? I really wish Milei was still in charge of the Pentagon. This is an older article. In fact, I remember like looking at it when it first came out. If Kamala did that, Republicans would destroy her for it. Dude, and Tim Walz and J.D. Vance had their debate, and Tim Walz's gotcha question was, you said 30 years ago you were in China during the Tiananmen Square massacre, but in reality you were actually there 29 years and 11 months ago, and thereby you would have missed it. What do you have to say about that? And on like the J.D. Vance side, he literally will not answer whether or not Donald Trump lost in 2020, even though multiple people associated with Trump, including Trump, have acknowledged it. The media is 100% complicit is what is in what is happening right now.
In the debate, you were asked to clarify if you believe Trump lost the 2020 election. Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think that Donald Trump and I have both raised a number of issues with the 2020 election, but we're focused on the future. I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020, which is a wide open border, groceries that are unaffordable. And look,
Senator,
Lulu,
yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which
This goes
independent
on for a
analysis have
while.
said cost Donald Trump millions of votes.
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes? I think
Senator
that's the
Vance,
question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the
And
2020
I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
I have asked this question repeatedly. It is something
In a sane world, this would already be disqualifying. But this happened and nobody cares. No one's talking about it. In a world that makes sense, this on its own would be enough to completely there's no path forward in a campaign after this.
that is very important for the American people to know. There is no proof, legal or otherwise, that Donald Trump did not lose the 2020 election.
You're repeating a slogan rather than engaging with what I'm saying, which is that when our own technology firms engage in industrial scale censorship, by the way, backed up by the federal government, in a way that independent studies suggest affect the votes, I'm worried about Americans who feel like there were problems in 2020. I'm not worried about this slogan that people throw. Well, every court case went this way. I'm talking about something very discrete, a problem of censorship in this country that I do think affected things in 2020. And more importantly, that
I think her main mistake here is that she should just flatly not allow him to speak until he answers with a yes or a no. Again, like you do this forever and he's like, oh, okay, well, rather than answering that, I'm going to give you 17 minutes of me filibustering where I repeat every single talking point that I have. Like you can't, it's the media is just fundamentally unequipped to deal with people like this. People that they cover, but who act in obvious, transparent bad faith. They have no way of dealing with it, or they don't want to deal with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with this lady in particular. I'm not saying she's complicit, though the New York Times broadly certainly is.
it led to Kamala Harris's governance, which has screwed this country up in a big way.
Senator, would you have certified the election in 2020? Yes or no?
I've said that I would have voted against certification because of the
He should be arrested for this. Immediately. So first of all, you wouldn't vote against certification. You would have done the certifying. You would have been the VP. The question is, if you were the vice president whose job it is to certify, that is a ceremonial role, by the way. You don't get to opt out of it. You have to do it. If you were the VP, would you have certified? If you were the VP, would you have certified? And he says, well, no, I wouldn't have. Well, he does it in a cowardly way. He says, I would have voted against it. That's not how that works. You certify or you don't. If he says he doesn't, then that's you failing to perform your responsibilities as the vice president to obstruct a proceeding of the United States. That's sedition. Welcome to a jail cell. But of course, we don't live in a sane country. In reality, you can just do whatever you want. You know, it doesn't actually matter. As long as you're wealthy and powerful and the media backs you up, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Major papers are giving Trump's January 6th indictment dramatically less attention than they did Clinton's server. Yeah, and this is precisely the reason why I didn't even talk about it. Jack Smith's unsealed indictment. Whoa, you're telling me Donald Trump wanted the Jan 6 riots? You're telling me that he was directly involved in them? You're telling me that he deliberately incited one in an effort to interfere with the proceedings of the certification of the election back in 2020? We know! And he got away with it. It doesn't matter if the media doesn't give it attention. It doesn't matter if it's not backed up with power. It doesn't matter how right or wrong anyone is. The Hunter Biden laptop still gets brought up, but not the Vance leak. The Hunter Biden laptop has already been fully examined. It's nothing. It's been known to be nothing for years. It doesn't matter.
The concern that I just raised. I think that when you have technology companies...
The answer is no.
When you have technology companies censoring Americans at a mass scale in a way that... Again,
also, you should insult him. You should say that it's cowardly and pathetic that he can't directly answer questions. That if he has objections to the question, he can raise them after answering them, but his unwillingness to answer them strikes of snakishness. But that's uncivil.
And independent studies have suggested affect the vote. I think that it's right to protest against that, to criticize that, and that's a totally reasonable thing.
So the answer is no. And
maybe the real October surprise is that nothing happens at all. You know, the real October surprise is that everyone understands that nothing actually matters. You already linked that white people happy. No, it wasn't white people happy. The October unsurprise? Yeah, perhaps.